Hey, everybody, if you're just joining in, welcome. We're going to be starting shortly, giving everybody a chance to log on. Okay, great. So we're going to get started. Welcome, everybody. This is Lars Light from the SOMM Journal, welcoming you to National Chianti Day. We are here with the grace of a couple of great sponsors today. Of course, SOMM Journal, if you caught the July issue, you know that we had our study guide on Chianti Classico, so you could have that as a little crib sheet in the background, but we're going to try to give you plenty of information today. We're also here through the grace of the SOMM Foundation, who very generously helped us send samples out to 24 very lucky, very qualified participants who will be tasting with us. This session is being recorded. It will be on the sommjournal.com website later today. And it's also right now on Facebook Live on the SOMM Journal platform. So you have plenty of places if you want to catch up on some of this information. You have places to check it out later. Of course, we're here with the winemaker Andrea Daldin from Lamole di Lamole, who's coming to us directly from Chianti. And of course, we have Vittorio Marzotto, who is with Santa Margherita USA, the vice president of the great initiatives that they're all doing, in charge of that, and a family representative. And actually, Andrea, this was a great initiative of your family to start National Chianti Day, wasn't it?
Yes.
Sorry,
yes.
Vittorio.
Yes, Lars, no worries, no worries. Thank you for having us. Yeah, and happy National Chianti Eve, actually, today, because
That's right.
National Chianti Day, it happens every year since the 2020. So September 2020 was the first year when Santa Margherita USA established this anniversary, this occasion to celebrate the beauty of the Chianti overall in terms of the wine region, its products, the tradition, the conviviality aspect, and everything that we love, the history, of course. So it's not just the wine itself, but it's all together. That what we like to to bring home when we visit Tuscany and Chianti Classico in particular.
Of course. What was it that led your family? I mean, obviously, it's a great excuse to have a glass of Chianti, but tell us a little bit more about the passion that really drove your family to.
In few words, my family had an intuition back in the early 90s. We are from the north traditionally, but we really had this vision to step into this area in Chianti Classico. We're in the commune close to the village of Greti, Greve Chianti, and this little sub district called Lamole is up in the hills. So it's one of the highest elevation in the Chianti Classico that we'll talk about later for sure. But the thing is, like when people started, growers and the local inhabitants, they started like moving down to the valley floor, looking for more opportunities to find a better place to work, in terms of even agriculture, because we up here it's pretty stiff. They have steep slopes, and we have a lot of forest and bushes and etc. So the big vision was to rediscover this area and bring it back to life for wine growing and for the local community to live there. Just to give you an idea, today there are 88 people. They live up here in this little village. So we kind of we're proud to be committed to this area for more than 30 years. And Andrea, of course, has been with us since then. So he's a very a testimony of what it has been done. It's all about him that we're gonna hear from his voice. But be sort of a guardian of this beautiful place. And now we're very excited because a lot of things are happening these days in Lamole.
Excellent. Vittorio, if you don't mind, I'm going to share screen for a minute and just show exactly where we are, where Lamole is. So you can see the outline here is of Tuscany. Everything that's in that lighter brown is all the greater Chianti area, but what's in red, that Burgundy, that Chianti, that Sangiovese color, is Chianti Classico. And so Lamole is part of the Chianti Classico, but it's in the pretty far north part, as you can tell by that. So that's very cool. And I think that it's also very appropriate that we start National Chianti Day with the toast, but I don't know, Andrea, you look like you might not be in a place where you're able to get a glass of wine, are you? C'hai il vino, Andrea?
Yes, I am.
Of course he does. So salute to National Chianti Day Eve.
Thank you.
Andrea, is it National Chianti Day in Tuscany too?
For me, every day is National Chianti Day. I work every day.
Bravo, bravo. Well, that's
It's a good day.
fantastic. Where are you
That is
right
very
now? I assume.
important.
Yeah, it's very important. Cheers, everybody.
Salute. Cheers.
So Vittorio, before we get into exactly where Andrea is coming from, you want to tell us a little bit about this wine, maybe together with Andrea? We're drinking Maggiolo.
It's always good to start with some wine in the palate, and
Yes.
then to better enjoy the storytelling and all the technical nuances. So we're having now our Maggiolo, which is our straight Chianti Classico 2019. It's a wine that is predominantly Sangiovese with a little bit of Merlot and Cab Sauvignon. And Merlot comes from one of the top vineyards that we have in Lamole. If you want to also show the map where we have all different bodies of the property. So it's basically the number 4 Vigneto Le Masse. It's the
bottom right.
highest is about 650 meters above sea level, so it's 2,100 feet. And as you know, Lars, the limit in Chianti Classico to grow vines is like 700. So we're very, very close. And here we can really benefit of the elevation aspect in all the in different way for the wine itself and the profile that even Merlot releases to the plant, to the wine. So this is our let's say flagship wine, and Maggiolo. It's the new name that we're very happy to introduce for the first time with the 2019 vintage. Maggiolo it's a combination of 2 words. Maggio in Italian means May, the month of May, and Giaggiolo is our local flowers called iris in English, I think, which is a purple flower. And it happens to bloom in May. So the combination of Maggio and Giaggiolo makes the word Maggiolo. So we have this stronger connection with our local territory.
That's fantastic. I love those flowers come out. They last about maybe 2 or 3 weeks. It's always sad to see. It's wonderful to see them come. It's sad to see them go. But it's definitely a harbinger of spring. And to me, this wine is it's quintessential Chianti. Chianti can be capable of making a very simple wine. Chianti can be capable of making a very great world-class wine. But to me, this is quintessential Chianti. It's got beautiful structure, but it's got that freshness that I would expect from 700 meters above sea level. Nice, crisp, round. It's great. I don't even think I'd call it entry level. It's just quintessential Chianti. This is what everything Chianti should be: zesty and refreshing, and still has nice, long, lingering finish to it.
Yes, I think we're going to go through the 3 different wines. So from the straight one, I don't like either like basic or entry level. I like straight because that's the Chianti Classico. But the progression, I think, is interesting to see the different region of the vineyards where we're going to have this, the blend from the grapes, but also the elevation that really impact. and so the cherry, the fruit component, which is the common denominator in for us in Lamole, tends to be more like more on the red cherry, on the red fruit side.
Yeah.
Got a little bit of earthy component to it, with the good spiciness, but the spiciness is not really it's not dry. It's a little bit more on the warmer side, if you will. So I like it overall with the nice full body, and good length and elegance. I mean, Andrea always liked to talk about the combination between the aromatics and the elegance, which is again like our style, our profile in Lamole.
Yep, and I have to say compliments for the decision to give the wines names. They were always great to find, Lamole di Lamole, finding the Chianti Classico blue label, but now it's got a first name, Maggiolo, so it feels like a friend now. So I don't know if that was an initiative from Santa Margherita, USA, or from Lamole di Lamole, but I'm grateful for it, and it's a good handle to have, so thank you. So Andrea, we just spoke about, by the way, folks, in case Andrea, I think you heard almost the exhaustion of his English a little while ago. So I'll be translating for him on the fly a little bit. Hopefully he'll speak some more English for my sake. But Andrea, we saw that beautiful map of the estate. You spread out over a very broad area. You and I once rode across the estate, and it seemed like interminable amount of time to get from one spot to the other. So there's a little bit of mini microclimates, mini sites there, which are a little different from each other. Where are you standing right now, Andrea?
Grazie Lars per la tua traduzione. Sono nel vigneto storico di Lamole, che è stato piantato il 20/03/1945.
Wow, I want to make sure I'm getting my translation right. So you said you're in the historic vineyard of Lamole. I understood that, but I'm not sure if I got the date correct. You said it was planted in 1945?
E qui sì, è stato piantato in quell'anno ed è stata fatta una grande selezione di 32 biotipi diversi di Sangiovese. Biotipo significa Sangiovese di dimensioni diverse.
So it was already an experimental vineyard planted in 1945 with different biotypes. Quanti biotipi?
32.
32 different biotypes. What a tremendous foresight for people to do that in 1945. That's fascinating.
E tra questi 32 biotipi è stato selezionato il clone storico di Lamole, che è l'R10.
R10?
R10.
RL10. Okay, so from those 32 biotypes, they chose the one clone that they thought worked best for them, registered it, and that's the RL10, correct, Vittorio?
R10, yes.
R10, okay, fantastic.
Ora vi farò vedere questi cloni tipici di questo territorio.
Great, he's going to have us take a look at some of these clones.
Eccolo qua, questo è un clone di Sangiovese grosso, proprio
So
un clone dove un grappolo pesa 500 grammi.
Of Sangiovese Grosso, as you can see. Se puoi girare leggermente ancora di più, if you can turn a little bit more, great. You can see each grape bunch weighs almost a pound, which is pretty wild.
Il Sangiovese grosso è quello che poi è stato piantato anche a Montalcino.
And Sangiovese Grosso, that was the one that was also planted originally back in Montalcino for the Brunello.
Questo è un clone di qualche anno dopo.
This is a later developed clone. Quale?
F9.
S9.
F9.
F9. Florence. F is in Florence.
F as in Florence. Thank you. F9.
Che come si vede è un po' più piccolino, è meno pesante.
As we can see, it's smaller berries, the grape bunch is smaller, less heavy.
Per arrivare a un clone un po' più moderno,
to come to a little more modern clone.
È stato riprodotto ultimamente da noi, dove il grappolino è un po' più piccolino, un grappolino molto più piccolino che pesa circa 200 grammi.
Much smaller berry, it's about 200 grams, so a little less than a half a pound. It's one that was developed and brought forward by them as a clone.
Beh, il Sangiovese è il principe dei vitigni in questo territorio, anche se chi comanda qui non è sempre il vitigno, ma è il terreno, il clima, il terreno che ci circonda, il terreno in particolare.
So Sangiovese is what we like to call it, the prince of this territory, the prince of Tuscany, but in reality, the king, the one who really calls the shots, is the land, is the earth. The earth really makes the difference.
Il tipico terreno.
The earth, show us the soil.
Yeah, facci vedere il terreno.
Allora, il tipico terreno di Lamole è un'arenaria, è il macigno del Chianti, che è questo.
So this is what they call the macigno toscano, which is a type of rock that will eventually decay and break down.
Che è una roccia molto dura di profondità che si carica di ferro e manganese.
Very, very hard rock, and it's actually made up of a lot of iron and magnesium. Magnesium. Okay, that's what we're sticking with.
Mentre in superficie c'è quest'altra roccia che è un galestro, che è una roccia che si sfalda, che si rompe.
Well, on the surface we have this rock, this type of slate called galestro that you can see it's very friable. It breaks up very easily.
È questa, che è più una roccia di superficie.
It's more of a surface rock.
Permette alle radici di penetrare, di andare in profondità alla ricerca dell'acqua e delle sostanze minerali.
So it allows the roots to reach through and go down to seek out the water and the minerals that are deeper in the soil.
Sostanze minerali che sono fondamentali per la freschezza e la longevità dei vini.
Those mineral substances which really help give the wine freshness and longevity, ageability.
Per quel che riguarda Maggiolo abbiamo già detto più o meno i varietali, quindi Sangiovese, Merlot e Cabernet, 90 Sangiovese.
So the Maggiolo is made up predominantly of Sangiovese with Merlot, and did I hear Cabernet Sauvignon? Yep. But predominantly
una vinificazione molto breve, 4-5 giorni, perché vogliamo mantenere la freschezza, le note fruttate dell'uva.
So 4 or 5 days maceration, so we have we're able to maintain the freshness of the fruit.
E poi un affinamento per quel che riguarda il Sangiovese d'1 anno in botte grande, mentre Merlot e Cabernet in barrique.
The Sangiovese is aged for about a year in large casks of Slavonian oak, while the Cabernet and Merlot are aged in French oak barrique.
L'idea è quello di mantenere maggiormente quello che è le note fruttate fresche che dà l'uva, le note dell'uva, tipiche dell'uva.
Again, the idea is to maintain those nice fresh fruit qualities that come from the grape itself. We want to really highlight the grape. All right. So we also have another wine to taste, which is the Reale 2018. Can you talk to us a little bit about that? There it is. I'll bring up the slide of that as well.
So Reale, again, it's a new name, Lars, that we're introducing this year as well. And Reale comes from a Toscan slang, if you will. They say areale without the L, and it indicates like sort of a contrada, so like a certain area within the property.
So it's like a site.
It's a site. It's a sub-site within the property, but that has pretty much, it's not a single vineyard, but it shows all the characteristics from a certain hill exposure, type of soil, like a place, a sense of the place, if it makes sense.
Yeah,
so
it makes all the sense in the world.
Right now, our Reale is Reserva, so definitely we gear up and we move to a different level of wine here. Predominantly Sangiovese, Andrea, with a little bit of a Canaiolo here. So I think it's still 95% Sangiovese, 5% Canaiolo. So no international grapes, and it's the level, the location in the vineyards. If you want to show the map, this wine comes predominantly from Il Prato, which is the name of the vineyard, and it's a little bit lower. So it's a number 3. It's definitely one of the lowest. So here we go from 470, 80 meters. So we're almost 200 meter lower than what we pointed out before, Le Masse, up on top of the hills.
Yeah.
So the variation, again, it really makes a difference here in terms of character of the Sangiovese itself. And Andrea can better explain, but this is one of the beauty of Lamole, di Lamole as a even, you know, proposition, because we have a lot of the differentiations between one vineyards and the other. So Andrea, here definitely the notes, the berries are more on the dry side, more dry black berries, cherry fruit. I have some more mineral and leather component to it. Graphite, I remember this is something that is always very present in this wine for the mineral components of this part of the soil. And but definitely always very elegant, very drinkable. Definitely a wine that goes better with food here. We can definitely go more on the complexity of the pairings, but very Lamole driven in terms of terroir. Andrea, what do you think?
Allora, vabbè, intanto come hai già detto, i varietali sono Sangiovese Canaiolo, due autoctoni toscani.
As we said, the native Tuscan varieties, Sangiovese and Canaiolo.
Ma la cosa più importante è il metodo di vinificazione. Nel
What's most important
2006,
is the vinification method.
nel 2006 abbiamo studiato questo nuovo metodo chiamato metodo Lamole o differita.
In 2006, they studied this differentiated, what they call a Lamole method, slightly modified version for fermentation.
Quindi l'uva arriva in cantina, viene separata dai raspi, viene messa in una vasca in
So
acciaio.
the grapes come to the winery, they're destemmed, and the grapes are put into a stainless steel tank.
Il giorno dopo, quando le bucce si portano in alto e il mosto in basso, separiamo il mosto dalle bucce.
A day later, when the grapes and the skins rise to the top and the must settles at the bottom, they separate the two. They separate the must and the skins.
E quindi praticamente facciamo una fermentazione in bianco. Nella prima fase il mosto fermenta in bianco, in assenza di bucce.
So at that point, the white is treated almost like a white wine. It's fermented without any skin contact in lower temperatures.
Cosa succede nelle bucce? Si formano delle catene tra gli antociani, sostanza colorante, e i flavonoidi, che sono dei tannini.
So what happens is when the skins themselves, you get these chains that form of flavonoids and tannins that basically build up the tannic structure within the skins themselves. That's what they bring to the party, so to speak.
Che sono molto stabili ed equilibrati.
They're very stable, they're very balanced.
Quando il mosto ha raggiunto i 6 gradi alcolici, lo rimettiamo sulle sue bucce, quindi dissolviamo queste catene che sono stabili.
So when the must gets to about 6% alcohol, they put it back over the skins and sort of break up those chains again.
Questo che cosa ci permette di ottenere? Vini con un equilibrio tannico-antocianico che lo ritroviamo poi nel suo percorso di vita. L'equilibrio c'è nel terreno e nel vino.
So what do we get from that is a wine that is a little bit more balanced in terms of the anthocyanins and the tannins. It's a little bit rounder.
E questo ci permette di avere questo vino che ha sì dei bei tannini vibranti, presenti, ma molto equilibrati, molto eleganti e molto bevibili.
A wine still has very present tannins, but the tannins a little bit more elegant, a little bit more vibrant.
Finita la parte di fermentazione, sta 2 anni in botti grandi, perché noi crediamo ancora nei nostri vini nelle botti grandi, da 30 ettolitri.
Once the fermentation is done, we put the wine into very large tanks, Slavonian oak. We believe very much in using that kind of vessel for this kind of wine.
A quel punto viene messo in bottiglia circa 6 mesi prima della vendita, perché deve ritrovare il suo equilibrio anche nella bottiglia.
And at that point, it's bottled and it's held at the winery for at least another 6 months. That's something that it can never be underestimated, is the time that wine needs in the bottle to sort of rebalance itself.
È un vino che si deve bere mangiando, principalmente con la carne, ovviamente.
So it's a delicious wine, but it's a wine that screams for food. It's a wine that you want to have at the dining table. You want to have it, especially with meats. If you're a vegetarian, any grilled vegetables. Fantastico. Andrea, can you talk to us a little bit? I know we're going to talk more about the climate and you spoke a little bit about the soils, but I know that your farming methods have now you are completely organic on the estate? Completamente organico,
allora,
bio?
Sì, l'azienda è biologica dal 2006.
So from 2006, the estate is completely organic farming?
Quando abbiamo convinto gli altri produttori del territorio a seguire questo percorso, quindi è un territorio che è organico.
And we've managed to also convince a lot of our neighboring producers, so the whole territory is now organic. If what's good for one is good for everybody.
Che cosa significa fare agricoltura organica? Significa ridurre l'utilizzo del rame, che è un metallo naturale.
So what does that mean? Above all, organic farming means reducing the presence of or the use of copper.
E quindi stiamo utilizzando fin da allora dei prodotti chiamati induttori di resistenza.
So we're using these what they call resistance inducers, which are organic products.
Che sono fatti su base nel 2006 aloe, propoli e alghe.
So it's mainly based from aloe, propolis and algae. So all natural.
Qual è il loro ruolo? Aumentano la capacità della pianta di resistere all'attacco dei funghi.
What they do is they actually help the plant resist a lot of the heat and maintain its freshness, maintain its cool.
Esatto. Negli anni seguenti abbiamo studiato un nuovo prodotto che si chiama olio essenziale d'arancia, quindi ottenuto dalla buccia dell'arancia.
Now, a few years later, we also discovered the impact of the essence of oils of orange, so extract that comes from the skins of the orange, from the zest.
Che ha come ruolo quello di disidratare il fungo, cioè il fungo che attacca la pianta viene disidratato, perdendo acqua muore.
So it's a natural enemy to any of the funguses that can attack the vine. It actually dries up the funguses, so the funguses then actually die of thirst and they're gone. They're removed.
E invece col cambio climatico, quindi temperature aumentate e piovosità ridotta.
Obviously, that's very important. We have less rain right now, and that's an important factor in the climate change.
Stiamo utilizzando questo nuovo prodotto che è ottenuto da un distillato di essenze di bosco.
So we're using a new product that is basically a distillate of forest essences.
E che cosa fa? Aiuta la pianta nell'abbassare quella che è la sua temperatura esterna,
And
visiva,
again, it helps the plant lower its external temperature.
e accumula sostanze di riserva che aiutano l'uva e la pianta durante la fase di stress.
And manage to be able to conserve its energies and its substances that help it make it through a long, dry, hot season.
Quest'anno abbiamo utilizzato anche una nuova sostanza che è una roccia, il Cowolino, che è una roccia bianca.
This year we used another substance which is based on rock. It's called Cowolino. It's a type of clay similar to what's been used for production of china or porcelain. So using
che viene spruzzato sia sulla foglia che sulla grappa e praticamente abbassa la temperatura e fa sì che il sole non diffonda la luce, quindi non colpisce la pianta.
And they do that. They spray it on both the leaves and the grapes, so that it's sort of like a sunblock. It helps reduce the impact of the sun on the vine.
Tutte queste operazioni, queste prove fatte negli anni sono importanti perché il clima sta cambiando velocemente.
And these trials, these experiments that we've done over the years are really becoming very important because climate is changing and it's changing rapidly.
E faccio un esempio pratico. Fino a 7-8 anni fa pioveva circa 800 millimetri di acqua all'anno.
So to give you an example, about 5 anni fa, hai detto?
5 anni fa, sì, va bene.
Up about 5 years ago, we had about 800 milliliters of rain a year.
Negli ultimi anni siamo arrivati a meno di 400.
And we're down to less than half of that, around 400 milliliters a year.
Quindi pur essendo in una zona vocata e avendo le radici che vanno in profondità, ci stiamo preparando a questo forte cambio climatico.
So even though this area, we're high up, we're cool, we have soils that allow the grapes to reach down, we're still preparing for the dramatic changes that the climate is undergoing.
Quando io sono arrivato in questa azienda 30 anni fa,
When I arrived at this estate 30 years ago,
ogni 10 annate 7 erano piovose, 3 con il caldo.
out of 10 vintages, 7 were rainy, 3 were hot.
Negli ultimi 10 anni esattamente il contrario, 7 molto calde e 3 piovose.
In the last 10 years, it's been the complete opposite. We've had 7 very hot vintages and 3 rainy ones.
E quindi dobbiamo lavorare su quella che è la gestione del terreno.
So we have to work very closely on managing the soils.
E la scelta di nuovi cloni che si adattano, che sono un po' più grandi, con Sangiovese un po' più grandi, che si adattano a questo clima.
And again, the selection of clones that give us bigger bunches with smaller berries that adapt very well to this climate.
Okay.
So speaking about dryness, can we taste the next wine?
Certo.
What do we have now? We have the Vigneto
Vigneto Campolungo. So we are getting into the Gran Selezione classification for us. As you know, Lars, recently, actually last year, the consortium of Chianti Classico introduced this new classification called Gran Selezione, and it really refers to the UGA system within the Gran Selezione category. So only the Gran Selezione today is defined by the UGA system. So UGA system is the geographical unit added to the original territory of Chianti Classico that was set back in the in the 1930s, if you will. So from 9 communes, villages that were back then until the year before the last year. Now we have 11 municipalities or villages. They are part of this new classification with certain boundaries. They are very specific. And the big news for us that we're very excited is that now Lamole has gained his own status of a single unit, geographical unit added to the historic classification. So we're very, very happy because if you can imagine all the work that has been done in this past 30 years, ended up in identifying this territory with its own unique terroir, and that's why the consortium and the producer, they're part of it. They decided to go in this direction. That said, Gran Selezione for us is the single vineyards Vigneto di Campolungo. It's been around for more than I've been, so it kind of have my age. So it was planted in the early 80s, and now it's about 10 hectares, 11 hectares in size. 4 hectares are still from the 80s, and the rest has been replanted with the new even trailing system, if you will, because we had to restore all the terraces, and this was a great, very important, investment that has been done in the past 10-15 years. And the other uniqueness, if you will, of Campolungo is that it covers like a very big chunk of the elevation. So it goes from 400 meters, 420 on the bottom, up to 550, 580. So it's really like, it really sets all the different characteristics from the bottom to the top that Andrea can manage, and with the winemaking team can, they can make this incredible wine. So Andrea, what are your thoughts about this wine? Cosa pensi?
Prima parlerei un istante, accennerei il discorso dei terrazzamenti. Noi a Lamole abbiamo ormai quasi 10 ettari di terrazzamento.
So it's very important. Andrea wants to speak about the terracing, the stone terraces like the walls you see behind him. That's but we're going to come back, Vittorio, if you don't mind, we're going to come back to UGA because I want to get an even more clear definition of that. But in the meantime, we're going to talk about what makes this this whole area, the Campo Lungo, very special. Yeah. And so, sorry, Andrea, back to the terrazzamento, back to the terraces.
Abbiamo i terrazzamenti, inoltre in questi terrazzamenti coltiviamo ancora le viti ad alberello di Lamole. Ecco, questo che vediamo è l'alberello di Lamole.
So what we're seeing is alberello. So these are head train vines of the Lamole clone.
Esatto. Quindi una forma d'allevamento che veniva utilizzata nelle zone alte.
It's a training system that is especially useful in higher quotas, higher elevations.
Perché l'uva era più vicina a terra, quindi il calore a terra riusciva a maturare.
And the idea was to keep the grape closer to the ground, so the warmth of the ground would help protect the grape, help ripen the grape.
I 4 ettari che diceva Vittorio prima sono del clone R10 di Lamole, il clone storico.
So the 4 hectares that Vittorio was referencing earlier are all from our Lamole clone, that R10 historic clone.
I leviti sono su queste pietre, quindi hanno un pochissimo apparato radicale, quindi tendono a produrre questi grappoli, pur essendo grossi, molto più piccolini, molto più fragili.
So because they're in this very rocky soil, they produce well, but they tend to produce these smaller grape bunches that are a little bit more fragile. So it takes a little bit more TLC, a little bit closer management.
L'altitudine tra la zona minima e la massima è quella che dà anche al vino quella verticalità nella sua bevuta.
So that difference going on the slopes, going into the terraces, the difference from the lower ones to the higher ones is what helps a wine actually have that, what he calls verticality.
Introdurrei anche un altro piccolo argomento, ne abbiamo parlato prima. Noi tutte le nostre uve vengono ovviamente vendemmiate e selezionate a mano.
So obviously I want to also state another important factor is that all of our grapes are harvested by hand.
Ma 10 anni fa abbiamo acquistato un selettore ottio, quindi una macchina che seleziona acino per acino.
And 10 years ago, we invested in a optical selector for the winery so that we can literally choose berry by berry as the grapes come into the winery.
Questo per mantenere e vinificare solo ed esclusivamente gli acini migliori.
So we know that we're making wine only from the very best grapes that are coming in.
Lì è iniziato il nostro percorso dal punto di vista gustativo, c'è questa bellissima nota speziata e balsamica.
So you get on this wine, you get these beautiful balsamic notes, these beautiful spicy notes.
E questa nota vanigliata che è data principalmente dall'utilizzo di una botte di legno grande ma nuova.
And this little bit of spiciness, that little bit of touch of vanilla that comes from using it's still a large cask, but it's new oak, new Slavonian oak. So it gives it that little bit of vanilla touch.
Questo è un bellissimo blend tra i vitigni storici degli anni 80, un Sangiovese grosso, e quelli nuovi del progetto Chianti Classico 2000, molto più piccoli.
So this is a great combination between the historic vines, the historic grapes and vines that were grown here from the 1980s, the Sangiovese, to the new clones that were a result of the research that they did in the project Chianti 2000, Chianti Classico 2000, which is a clonal research.
Ma qual è la vera forza di questo vino? Pur essendo del 2017, è rimasto freschissimo, fruttato e fresco.
Strength of this wine is not only, besides the fact that it's from the 2017 vintage, notwithstanding that fact, it's got beautiful freshness to it. A lot of youth still to the wine. Okay, fantastico. So Vittorio, if we can revisit the UGA for a minute.
Sure.
So to put it in very simple terms, you have...
Very simple terms. In Italian, it's translated as Unità Geografica Aggiuntiva. In English is additional geographical unit.
Okay.
A Lamole soprazona.
So Lamole, as I said, Lamole was designated to this new classification just now, and so now there are like 11 different villages or sub-district, if you will, that make this new sub-classification of Chianti Classico.
So
And
the UGA is a recognition of very specific sites. It's not all over the place. Very specific sites that are very unique and recognized by the region for that.
Exactly, and the reason is that because the wine, when we make the wine has to be certified and judged, if you will, that from a committee, and Andrea is also part of this committee. So there are like few bunches of producers, they get together and they have to basically prove the fact that the wine that is shown has specific characteristics that are recognizable in terms of, you know, if it comes from Lamole, it has to be, you know, with a certain level of elegance and the fruit component, the aromatics expression has to be there. For instance, if it comes from the lower part, the valley floor has to be more structured and more, you know, powerful. And so every village now kind of has its own pedigree. You know, it's like a way, like we do have the same sub-classification method in other wine regions, like in Barolo, like in even in Sicily on Mount Etna, or I mean, in the most upscale and advanced wine region, you know, in the world, especially in Europe, where we really trust I mean, we really read the denomination first, rather than the variety. So even in, you know, in Burgundy or, you know, in other famous wine region of the world. So now Chianti Classico is getting in that direction, because every sub-site has its own character and expression. So that's what ultimately we wanna achieve, is to create our own pedigree for the consumers, for the trade and the consumers, to, you know, to pick and choose whatever they like for their experience. Yep,
something unique. So of the 11 UGAs in the Chianti area, are all of them specific to one producer, or do some producers share vineyards in a given UGA area?
No, so that's why at the beginning I said that only the Gran Selezione now is part of this UGA system in terms of classification, because the wine has to come from your own vineyards, your own estate to be.
That's part of the definition of Gran Selezione.
Yeah, that's more a quantitative aspect that is proved by the certification, you know, in the cellar, the paperwork, etc. Then the other aspect I explained before is more a qualitative aspect, which is more the tasting panel. They recognize certain nuances and expression of the wine that is supposed to come from that particular terroir. So it's a very terroir-driven project for the Chianti Classico.
Yeah, and that's unique, because I'm not sure how many. I think probably pretty much everybody understands that Lamole di Lamole is the name of a producer and the name of a place. So that's why you're the Lamole winery from Lamole, which is a village, tiny place. But so the UGA is not named for a producer; it's named for a true historic place.
Yes. So the Riserva and the straight Chianti Classico are not part of it yet. But you know, Andrea told me that the commission, I mean, the consortium is working on it. Of course, it takes time, you know, to get everybody together and get the consensus and move forward, because it's a big you know, change in the mentality of the producer and in the business model of the producer, especially the bigger, because of course this doesn't allow you anymore to buy grapes or wines from a different area beside what you state on the label. So it has to come and be bottled inside your estate.
It's really honing in on that sense of place.
Exactly.
Narrowing it down. That's very cool. Thank you. That's important. That's a big, we as educators are all very interested in that, because it's coming and we need to explain it to the consumers. So thank you for that explanation. I think it would be good, given the date we're into September, we'd like to talk a little bit about the harvest. I know that in other parts of Tuscany, the harvest has begun, but I don't see any action going on behind you there. Andrea, la vendemmia vedo che chiaramente, anche se in altre parti della Toscana stanno già vendemmiando, non vedo nessuno lì.
No, infatti da noi la vendemmia inizierà probabilmente tra 15-20 giorni.
So probably in about 15 to 20 days is when we're going to start harvesting. We still got a while to go.
Anche perché nonostante l'estate molto calda, le foglie sono ancora tutte verdi.
Because though it was a very hot summer, the leaves are all still very green, as you can see.
È iniziato quello che è l'agostamento del tralcio, cioè vuol dire che il tralcio diventa marrone.
You're starting to see the typical signs of August where the branches are starting to turn brown.
E il raspo appena iniziato a cambiare colore, ancora verde. Questo deve diventare assolutamente marrone.
And the stem too. The stem is still green. It's just starting to turn brown, but it has to be absolutely brown for harvesting.
Quindi abbiamo ancora circa minimo 15 giorni di tempo in attesa del lieto evento annuale che porteranno, che con questo abbassamento delle temperature sicuramente migliorerà la capacità aromatica dell'uva.
So we have another 15 days of waiting and crossing our fingers for Mother Nature. And what should be going on is that the temperatures are gradually coming down, and that will help the grapes to kind of fully ripen at their own pace, at a relaxed pace without any stress.
Lars,
Prego.
no, Andrea, sorry, I was just saying that this is a very important information to point out, because you know, in Lamole, because of the elevation, and Andrea always reminds me that the cycle of the plants, like the growing cycle, it's like 200 days versus 180 days, which is traditionally on the middle and lower part of the valley. Mm-hmm. And those like 20 days, we're talking about 2-3 weeks of difference, makes a huge impact on the aromatics and the acidity level too, in the opposite way. So the more we grow, the more we wait, the more aromatics we gain, and we kind of lower the acidity. So that's why in our terroir in Lamole, we have that, you know, aromatic component and very nice refreshing fruit with that elegance that always Andrea it's very proud of it, and that's the terroir of Lamole, and those are probably the characters that are the commission, the committee is looking for when it judges the wine from Gran Selezione, from Lamole.
Sure, and that presence of manganese, because I just had a minute to look at the comments. I want to thank my friend Steve Dunn, the scientist. Manganese. So thank you. I stumbled over that.
No,
before.
magnesium. Magnesium is different.
It is. It's similar.
Magnesium is different.
Poi Lars, quando parliamo di vendemmia, parliamo sempre di inizio vendemmia. Il problema è quanto dura. Un anno abbiamo vendemmiato il 4 di novembre, abbiamo finito.
As Andrea points out, you know, we're talking about the harvest, but we're talking about right now, we're talking about the beginning of harvest. So last year, they wrapped up harvest on the 4th of November. So we got a long road ahead of us, is what he's saying.
A me è capitato di assaggiare una bottiglia del 1974 che è stata vendemmiata dopo la neve, aveva nevicato.
Wow, he recently had the opportunity to taste the bottle of 1974 Chianti Classico that was harvested after the snowfalls. Talk about climate change.
Essendo l'Amole molto alta, fino a 50 anni fa, la vendemmia arrivava da novembre in poi, per cui poteva succedere che ci fosse la neve.
Yeah, because Lamole is so high up, 50 years ago, the way the climate was, you would have harvest might not even start till November. And so very easily you could be after the snowfall. So Andrea, what else have we seen with this vintage condition so far? What have been some of your challenges, and what have been some of the things that you're thankful for? Allora, dell'andamento di questa annata. Quali erano le sfide più grandi e quali erano i punti positivi più grandi?
La sfida più grande è stata sicuramente l'assenza di piovosità fino a 15 giorni fa.
So clearly the biggest challenge has been the lack of rainfall up until about 15 days ago.
ma lì ci eravamo preparati prima perché essendo biologici avevamo inerbito l'azienda.
But we were prepared for that because of our organic farming. We have grass cover, we have ground cover, which helps
Quindi
with that drought situation.
abbiamo tagliato tutta l'erba e abbiamo creato un effetto pacciamatura, quindi il sole non riusciva a colpire il terreno, ma veniva disperso.
So we cut the grass down and left the cuttings on top, and that actually helped, again, create a type of natural sunblock for the soils and the heat.
Poi già da molti anni noi lavoriamo con quelle che io chiamo le viti spettinate, quindi lasciamo foglie e tralci in modo tale che il verde copra l'uva e tenga la pianta un po' più fresca.
And we've also done the last few years, we've tended to have a broader our canopy management has tended to leave more leaves, more branches in there to help shade the grape bunches.
Quindi siamo arrivati a quando è iniziato a piovere poche settimane fa, che tutto quello che sembrava in un momento di difficoltà è diventato tutto molto più bello, molto più facile. Oggi è un bel vigneto che vediamo.
So when it started to rain a few weeks ago, everything that seemed very desperate, very concerning, disconcerting, after a little bit of rainfall, freshened things up because the conditions, the vines have been prepared for it. So now we're looking at an absolutely gorgeous vineyard that we might not have expected before the rainfall.
Non so se si riesce a vedere la vigna che ho alle mie spalle, ma è in perfetta salute.
I don't know if you can see the vineyard that's
vigna.
right behind my shoulders here, but it's in perfect condition. He's clearly very proud of what Mother Nature has given them and what he's prepared for those conditions with.
E comunque questo è un insegnamento per il futuro su come dovremmo gestire in inverno i nostri vigneti, fin dalla potatura.
So that's a sign for us of how we have to manage our vineyards moving forward into the future, how we have to manage it right up until pruning time, being able to keep a little bit more canopy, and obviously keeping more cover on the soils, because things don't look like they're changing much in terms of climate change.
E quell'operazione che abbiamo fatto quest'inverno è stata: noi solitamente non lavoriamo, abbiamo lavorato il terreno, per cui quella poca acqua che è arrivata è stata tutta accumulata nel nostro terreno.
So it was also good as by not working the soils and the way we work the soils, all the rainfall has managed to stay there and really been absorbed into the soils. And that's been very helpful too, because we started working the soils a little bit more with the rainfalls finally coming.
E comunque, essendo Lamole l'anticamera del paradiso, siamo convinti che qualcuno lassù ci aiuterà sempre.
And we always say Lamole is so high that we say it's the waiting room for heaven. So surely somebody's smiling down on us as well. Excellent. Well, I think that is, I think that's pretty much a great way to wrap it up. I would like to ask anybody, if you have any questions. I don't see anything in the Q&A, but if you have any questions in the last minute or two, please fire them at us in the chat section. We love to, we haven't addressed any of your thoughts or concerns or questions, we'd love to throw them at either Andrea or Vittorio. So again, we've had Vittorio Marzotto, VP Strategic Initiatives of Santa Margherita, USA, and Andrea Daldin, who is the winemaking director for Lamole as well as the Santa Margherita Group. Gentlemen, thank you both very much. Of course, I want to thank my own team at SOMM Journal and the SOMM Foundation for their collaboration. Remember, this has been recording and it'll be on sommjournal.com, as well as on our Facebook Live platform. I do see some questions coming in. Ok, nel comune di Lamole, quanti altri produttori ci sono?
Eravamo 8 e siamo diventati 10 produttori.
We were 8 producers, now we are 7?
10, eravamo 8 e ora siamo 10.
We were 8, now we're 10, so there are 10 in that area in Lamole.
Perché è una zona molto piccola e tutti i grandi produttori ora vogliono acquistare un terreno a Lamole.
It's a small area, so all the important producers want to have land in Lamole.
Però ovviamente non c'è più terreno disponibile per i vigneti.
So but there's no more land left for vineyards. So
a Lamole ci sono nel totale, in luogo Lamole, 100 ettari di vigna, di cui 40 sono di nostra proprietà.
So there are a total of 100 hectares of vineyards in Lamole, and 40, giusto, are belong to Lamole di Lamole.
E tutti i grandi
So
produttori del
40%.
territorio si stanno avvicinando qui perché hanno capito qual è la qualità, quali sono le qualità e l'unicità di questa zona.
Because they understood the unique qualities and the specialness of the special nature of this area. So it's very high in demand.
E io mi ritengo fortunato ed orgoglioso di essere nato qui perché la famiglia Marzotto praticamente mi ha assunto 30 anni fa e di aver visto come è cresciuto questo territorio negli ultimi 30 anni.
I feel myself very fortunate having been grown here. The Marzotto family hired me 30 years ago. So I've been able to see this tremendous trajectory of how this area has grown and developed and become even more important and restored to what might have been its former glory or even greater than that. So Vittorio, I'm going to ask you this because it might be just simpler. There's a question on can producers sell to other producers outside of Lamole? I guess they could, but they couldn't call the grapes from Lamole, could they?
If it's a Gran Selezione, they cannot. If
Right.
it's like for Reserva, for straight Sangiovese, still yes. But the reality is that doesn't make sense for the you know the cost of the grapes in Lamole because it's very hard to cultivate up here. So you know you want to be you know certified from Lamole if you produce Lamole grapes.
And there's one that's in there that's not really the full question, but I'm going to interpret it the way I want to. Is because you are cooler climate, higher vineyards, do you think that would you ever be tempted to produce a rosé from Lamole?
Yeah, this is a question for Andrea.
We saw his answer. No way. Okay.
No.
Stick to what you do best.
Però mi piacerebbe produrre in futuro un bel bianco, un bianco.
However, it would be fun I would very much like in the future to produce a beautiful white wine from this area. So the request has been officially registered.
Which grapes, Andrea? What grapes? Andrea, che varietale?
Sì, ho capito, vabbè. Allora, per essere facile direi Chardonnay, ma a me piacerebbe più Trebbiano e Malvasia. Due bianchi locali, orange wine, belli carichi.
Easy answer would be Chardonnay, but really what I would like to do is Trebbiano, Malvasia, making the local white grapes and making an orange wine from them. So we'll see. Maybe we'll have a white wine webinar in 10 years.
The next episode in 10 years.
Exactly. All right, gentlemen. Again, thank you both very much. And thank you to our audience this afternoon. It's been wonderful this morning for those of you in the West Coast. This has been a fun experience. I learned a lot. I hope you learn a lot about manganese, amongst other things, and wonderful experience. So thank you both very much. Again, Lamole de Lamole, Santa Margherita, USA, and happy National Chianti Day Eve. Remember, the first Friday of every September is National Chianti Day, no matter where you are.
Don't forget to have a glass of Chianti tomorrow.
I'm sorry, say that one more time, Vittorio.
Don't forget to have a nice glass of Chianti tomorrow, Chianti Classico.
Exactly. Today was your primer. So, and remember also the study guide that was in the July issue of the SOMM Journal. And if you are not already subscribed to the SOMM Journal and you're in the trade, please send me a note, lars@sommjournal.com. We'd love to get you signed up. Thank you, everybody. Happy National Chianti Day tomorrow. Enjoy. Ciao.
Ciao a tutti.
Ciao. Cheers. Ciao.
Salute.